Hey, what's up, guys? It's Eric from Bike Entertainment, and first off, I just want to apologize on how long it's been taking us to get more of these episodes out right now of Post Watch. We've just been so busy trying to wrap up this year and enter the new year, and all our own jobs, we get so busy with that. Holidays, It's been a busy time. But we're back. We didn't have an episode for episode 7 of Mandalorian. And episode 8 just came out. So instead of doing 2 separate episodes at this time, I think I'm just going to combine it into one. Tell you my thoughts back to back on these 2 episodes. Because, they do go very back to back. Oh, and also, we're doing something a little different in the sense that I'm doing this solo because a lot of other people are still busy right now. It's just me that has been watching the episodes. And instead of, waiting for the crew to arrive, we want to get this out as soon as possible, while it's relevant. We were already a week behind with episode 7. We just wanted to get this out of here. I just want to give my thoughts, so. But yeah, we're going to talk about episode 7 first before we get to 8, just so we can keep things a little linear. Episode 7, man. Deborah Chow. Deborah Chow continues to impress. We already loved her with episode 3, back when all the Mandalorians came out, and, freaking blew up the city. She killed it again. So this episode, we're back on the guild home world where Carl Weathers' character, he runs his business with the guild and all the bounty hunters. He's called back because he's saying they're making a proposition of what they want to do with the kid. At least that's what they said. Whether or not they were trusted at that time, probably not. Especially because Mando finally gets his crew together, guys. He finally gets the crew together. We waited for how many episodes now? And we kept seeing all the cool characters that were promoted for the show. And we kept thinking, why are they not teaming up? It's just meetups and then they're gone. He goes back to get Cara Dune. He goes back to get Quill. And then we find out that IG-88 was back. That Quill found his body, reprogrammed the droid, and basically made it a housemate. Yeah, and that was actually really interesting, because the way that gets explained is actually in a flashback. And flashbacks you don't see often in any lore of Star Wars, for that matter. I think the one time you really see flashbacks was The Last Jedi. I don't think they ever did it beforehand. But you see the flashback of, Quill taking IG-88, reprogramming him, giving him a new purpose. It was kind of an interesting montage of seeing a droid grow up, I guess. It was really different. I also like the transition to that flashback, how he's serving tea, and the steam from that tea just fills the screen and transitions as smoke from that battle from the first episode. That was a really nice transition. It's interesting seeing Mando still not trust him. Which I get, When a droid tries to kill a baby, or just kill in general, why are you going to trust him initially? You would have a hard time with that. But yeah, it's been serving its purpose, It was reassigned to protect the kid. He joined on the journey. So then, that was the main crew. So they're on their way back. Oh, by the way, that baby and its force powers, and he freaking force choked Cara Dune over a chess game? Not a chess game, arm wrestling. He freaking choked over arm wrestling? He probably didn't know. He thought he was just protecting Mando. But yeah, it's just interesting to see all the different elements to this kid and what he brings to the table. So then they go back to the guild planet. They meet up with Carl Weathers, and he has a crew of bounty hunters, and they're off on a journey to go back to the main city. But then they have to pause. They have to stay for the night. That's when that moment with the weird, pterodactyl-like creatures came in. And that scene introduced something crazy. Force healing. We haven't seen that piece of lore ever. Well, it's just the first time we ever seen that on screen, live action. And it was freaking amazing. Carl Weathers was down, and then Baby Yoda just comes in. And that's not an easy thing to do, that shows how much power you have. And then after that, we learned that Carl Weathers did set a trap. Originally he was going to capture Mando and the whole crew. But after the events of force healing, that's when he realized, okay, I can't do this because that baby just saved my life. That was a nice change of heart for him. And I really appreciated that. So yeah, So now they can't bring the kid back. They have to change the deal or come up with a new plan. This is when things start to get juicy, and this will also lead into episode 8. So they bring it in. Quill takes the kid back. They proceed to take the carriage that the baby was originally in and basically trick the client into thinking they were delivering it. Because he wanted to see the baby. And then, he was about to see that it wasn't actually in there, but he got a freaking call from essentially his boss, Moff Gideon. And apparently he's the real baddie. I thought he was just like a secondary to the client. But apparently the client works for him. Shit goes bonkers, like, immediately. Freaking blaster bolts are going all over the place. It's freaking nuts. And it turns out it was the Imperials. They just blew up their own men. They just didn't give a shit. They just killed whoever. So yeah, they get busted. We see Moff Gideon enter into the city in a TIE fighter, which that was really interesting. Seeing a TIE fighter just park. You never seen that. Or if you have, you've seen it like vertical. But you never saw it like actually land on ground and even fold like that. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought they just landed like that. So it just makes you curious on how these things work. But yeah, like, this attack just freaking was crazy. Like, this was not the ending that I initially expected. Well, I mean, I kind of expected there to be things that went south, but not like this. My heart broke when freaking Quill died. He got by those troops. The kid got taken, and that's where episode 7 of Mando ended. It broke my heart to see that. That was quite an ending. That was quite a note to end on for episode 7. But then we come to today's episode. Episode 8. The finale for the season. And damn, this is Taika Waititi's episode. The first scene, you can tell that's a Taika Waititi episode. You wanna know why? The first scene is freaking the scout troopers that took the child back. They pause for a moment saying, alright, we're at the meeting point. And they're like, okay, hold off. And it's literally just them being like, so, how you doing? Did Moff Gideon really just kill one of us? And they're like, yeah, just listen to orders. And they kept punching the kid. Like, why would you do that? But she was like, hey, shut up. But yeah, these two were so jokester. It was quite funny to see. I feel like there's always a pair of Imperial Stormtroopers now that are just like buddy cop / dynamic duo of nonsense. Because you had a pair that had weird conversations, like Rogue One, for example. It was like, did you hear this and this? But this one took it to a whole level. Especially freaking target practice, man. These stormtroopers prove how bad they are, and it's hilarious. They just freaking take that. They're trying to shoot a can, and they keep failing. They miss everywhere. Oh, it was so funny. Also, not to mention, I found out after watching that these two scout troopers are actually cameo appearances by Adam Pally and Jason Sudeikis, which I had no idea they were even in this. Jason Sudeikis in particular, I'm fanning about because, We're the Millers and SNL, like all the stuff he's done. Married to Olivia Wilde, also, Like, I just couldn't believe that. That blew my mind. And then they get busted by IG-11. IG-11 finally, comes to help. Although I will say, something about that scene was a little wonky. Granted, it was already kind of a comical scene anyway with the whole target practice thing, but VFX-wise, a little bit uncanny valley in certain areas. Mainly with IG-11 just doing that to one of the troops. They looked very, doll-like ragdoll. Like, you ever see a CG ragdoll where they have, no bones and they're just like... That's what that looked like. It was a little wonky to see. But, it was fun. It was funny. And a little bit weird animation texturing, being technical, because, I like VFX, so I'm just gonna nitpick that sometimes. But yeah, after that scene, IG-11 takes the kid, goes back to the city to regroup with the others, and keeps him protected. Mando, Cara Dune, Carl Weathers' character, I keep forgetting his name, sorry. So they're pinned down, Gideon's got them, stuck. They got him right where they want him, or at least supposedly. And Gideon reveals that he knows who each of these characters are. He knows that Cara Dune, a rebel shock trooper from Alderaan. I actually did not know that. We all found out when we watched this that she's from Alderaan. So that's why she's freaking tough, because her homeworld got blown to smithereens in episode 4. So you imagine she would be pissed. She would definitely want to go against the Empire for blowing up her homeworld. So I totally get that now. I can understand why she's a badass that wants to freaking take down any remnants of the Empire. And then we learn Mando's name, actually. We learn what his actual real name is, which let me look it up real quick so I'm not butchering that. So his name is Din Djarin. That's his name. I don't know if there's any correlation with that, like if that means anything, or if that's just, we find out who his actual name is instead of the Mandalorian, or Mando for short. But yeah, we learn his name, we learn basically his full backstory, which is what we saw already in flashbacks, that he was a kid taken from his parents because they were killed by separatist droids, the big battle droids. And everyone thought that who rescued him was going to be like someone from the Clone Wars. But what actually happened makes a lot more sense, because he was a foundling himself. Foundling being an adopted child of Mandalorian culture. Because he's not Mandalorian by blood. He's Mandalorian by culture, like who he was ultimately raised by. Because they found him, they rescued him. That's all you see is just Mandalorians of that era rescuing him and taking him in as his own, which makes a lot of sense, especially because that's why he's saying always donate to the Fondlings, give whatever remnants to Fondlings. So yeah, we learned about his backstory. Yeah, and then IG comes back into the city. He's got the kid giggling at the destruction, like IG's destruction of the troopers. It's very strange to call it adorable because you are ultimately killing people, but just his giggle at the fact that he's enjoying stormtroopers being blown to smithereens is freaking funny. It's so adorable for some reason. But yeah, IG kicks major ass as you would expect. You remember seeing him in episode 1 with all the arms and twisting. He does it here too, and it's smart the way he does it because of the kid being on his front/back, whatever you want to call it. Mando almost gets blown to hell. He almost dies. Like, holy shit. Like, he almost was gonna, legit die. He was bleeding out because of an explosion caused by Gideon. They found an escape through the sewers. Mando almost was being held back to, let himself die. But then IG comes in and saves the day for him. And that's when we get something that Pete in particular has been begging for since the beginning of the show, which is seeing Pedro Pascal's beautiful face. Although, in this case, it wasn't... Well, it was pretty, but it was also pretty banged up because battling. But you see his physical face. You see Pedro Pascal's face this time. And you would think, why did he reveal his face? His helmet needed to be removed in order to heal, thanks to IG-11's Bacta whatever spray. And the general rule is, don't remove your helmet. No living thing can see your face. But IG-11 said himself he's technically not living. And that's when he removes his helmet and Mando realizes, wait, he's actually being genuine. Because, he didn't trust the droid in the first place. Because, he doesn't trust droids ever since, he was a kid almost getting killed by them. And IG-11 almost blowing up the baby. But then IG-11 proved himself with his reprogramming. He didn't kill the kid, and he saved his life, and he proved a point about not being a living thing. That's when Mando realized, no way. Am I trusting you right now? So, it was just really interesting to see Mando progress in his character to actually want to trust the droid, or at least this droid. So yeah, we see his face. It's kind of beaten up. He's a bit sweaty from being in a helmet and fighting, almost dying. But then they eventually meet up with the rest of the crew who went down in the sewer. They're looking for a way out. They find remnants of Mandalore armor, because it turned out a lot of Mandalorian warriors were killed after Mando left. It wasn't the bounty hunters, it wasn't that whole spiel that got him killed. It was the fact that Imperial troops swooped in and blew up everyone that was remaining there. Except for one. The mistress who was in the first couple episodes that built his armor, the Beskar armor, she survived. She finds out more about, the kid and explains to Mando the significance of that kid, being that she explains the Jedi, the fact that there's a group of warriors that at one time were enemies, and still kind of are, but the foundling, as we'll call him right now, because, well, I'll get into that in a little bit, but the child is of no harm to these guys, so the mistress explains that, he found this kid, now it's his responsibility to take care of it because he's the equivalent of a foundling, so he has to raise it to essentially grow up and be a good warrior as long as he can, or return it to its original race. So you have to pick which one. And that's ultimately what's going to be in season 2, is the journey to find either his species or to raise the kid, or really both. And then he gets his signet on his armor, which is the rhino thing that they faced against episode 2 that the child ultimately rescued him from. He earned that symbol either way. And then he got a jetpack, finally. He now looks like a Banff like every Mandalorian does. So he's got the full helmet, armor, jetpack. He's got it all now. And so once he's got all that, they're all ready to go escape. The mistress actually stays back because she feels that would be dishonorable to the Mandalorians that died there to not stay and fight back. Which she does, and she's a freaking badass while doing it. She takes down all of them, which you've ever see the books that have like the Imperial troop that gets smashed in the face, like the helmet shatters. That happened here. That freaking happened in The Mandalorian. She literally went freaking like smashed the helmets to smithereens. Like, it was so freaking crazy. And she ultimately survives, so her character can ultimately come back. How? Who knows? So they escaped. They have to ride a river of lava, like downriver, to make way to the exit point. And another thing that we saw for the first time is an astromech droid like R2 with arms and legs. Like, that's really weird. Like, and it was like one of those like river things like you see happen in other countries, like riding down the river. I forget what it's called, but it just made me think the whole time, oh, pepperoni, how much I love you. Like, I was hoping the droid would whistle that. That would have been funny. But I digress. Riding down the river, they discover that troops are at the end of the tunnel waiting for them. And then IG-11 ultimately sacrifices himself because there's no way out of this. So he decides, okay, I have to do this. I have to blow myself up in order to protect the child, which is his main protocol after reprogramming. And it was interesting seeing Mando actually get upset that he was going to do that, because Mando didn't like droids. So to see him freak out about this droid sacrificing himself, again, speaks to his character and how he's changing. Because he used to be a loner, now he has a crew. He didn't want anything to do with this kid. Now he's his adopted father, basically. He never trusted droids. Now he trusts this one with his life. He wanted him to stay on the crew and remain alive. But yeah, IG-11 sacrificed himself. He blew up all the troops that were there. They eventually made it out. Gideon came and attacked with his TIE fighter flowing in. And this was also a really cool fight. Just Mando in a jetpack versus Gideon in a TIE fighter. Them just flying around, grappling onto the TIE fighter to try and maybe climb in. He didn't get in ultimately, but he freaking attached grenades to the TIE fighter, and they ultimately won the battle then. The three of them are still alive. Kara and Carl Weathers actually remain on the planet, in case any more troops come back, they'll fight back, or if there's bounty hunters for more jobs, they're just going to remain on the planet and kind of keep it in control as best they can. Meanwhile, Mondo's now got what we're going to call a Season 2 mission, I guess, which is protecting a kid, seeing if they can find his race somehow, like finding his species, his family, if possible. Or he just has to continue raising him and find a safe place to do so, because now they're probably still going to be on most wanted list. And it was also nice seeing Mando do a burial. It was nice seeing him do that for Quill. Then they fly off, and that's the end of the season. Except for the frickin' Darksaber. So, Moff Gideon is not dead, which I kind of expected, to be honest. I kind of expected him to somehow maybe survive, but really, like, cutting it close. But what I did not expect is him breaking himself out of his own TIE fighter using a freaking Darksaber. Anyone that's watched Clone Wars or Rebels, you know what the Darksaber is. Yeah, it's a freaking black lightsaber, basically, with a white glow that the Mandalorian stole from the Jedi ages ago, like centuries ago. And it's been in Mandalorian possession ever since. It was with Death Watch. It was with Sabine in Rebels. And this is post-Rebels. Like, this is long after Rebels. So this makes me curious. When did Gideon get this lightsaber? What happened to Sabine then? Did she just give it up? Was it stolen? Like, I want to know why he has that, or if Gideon has more to him than we expect. Is he maybe Death Watch himself? He's related to Sabine? Did he kill Sabine? And then we're going to find out how? Is it possible we'll see Ezra from Rebels in here eventually? Like, there's so many possibilities with this. And also just the fact that you see the Darksaber not in a cartoon, in a live-action show. It's freaking awesome. The fanboy in me, when that happened, I was literally like, oh! And then that was the end of the episode. Oh, I can't wait for season 2 now. I want to see that Darksaber in action. But yeah, what do I hope for season 2 then? Well, like I said, Darksaber. Want to see more of that. I want to see if they ever find the child species, like Yoda's species. Definitely look forward to seeing more of Mando and the child. Seeing that whole dynamic. Hopefully, the team will be back together. Maybe you'll have to go on a mission for something else. Maybe. I still don't think we know who that mystery character was in the Tatooine episode. Is that Boba Fett? Is that someone else? Is that gonna bite them in the ass eventually? There's so many possibilities of this stuff. Like, that's what's so cool about this show and the franchise, that you can go anywhere with this. You're not tied down to limits. The possibilities are endless. I wonder if there's going to be more significance with the imps trying to get the child, Is it still going to tie in with how the Emperor comes back? Like, is that still the Imperial's mission? We'll have to wait and find out. Season 2's filming right now. Jon Favreau announced today that it's coming out fall 2020, so it's a lot to look forward to. And, yeah, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully you guys like this. I know this was different because it was by myself. I didn't have any crew or anyone to talk to. But hopefully, I didn't drag on too much. Hopefully this was informative, entertaining, maybe. If you want to see more stuff like this, we have more shows to watch, of course. Eventually, Clone Wars will be back. But yeah, like, subscribe. Look forward to hearing from comments if you guys leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on the finale and the whole show in general. And may the Force be with you. I have spoken.